Can you work with someone without actually working with someone? Let's talk about that today. Hello friends, welcome to Advanced Studio Classroom. I'm Campbell. Today is day 2 of our career article for the month of September. We are going to be talking about working in teams. And with a lot of modern technology nowadays, this dynamic has been shifting. The way people used to work in teams is different than the way people work in teams now. We'll talk a little bit about that today, but as usual, we have some great people in the studio with me. We have Brendan. How are you doing today, Brendan?
I'm doing well, Campbell. Thanks for having me back.
Well, thanks for being here. And Serena.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be back.
You guys have a lot of interesting things to say. Can you guys share a little bit about what you guys learned from yesterday's lesson?
Well, yesterday we talked about motivation and ways to motivate our employees. And for me, like I said yesterday, I really like words of affirmation, and that really encourages me to keep on going.
Well, I want to encourage you that you have a lot of great things to say, and
Thank
you
you,
do a
Campbell.
great job on the radio.
You too, Campbell. Thank you.
And Brendan, what did you learn about yesterday?
I learned that asking the right questions is really important when trying to figure out how to motivate someone.
Right.
This is something that I guess I kind of knew on some level, but I never really had the words to properly express it. So it was really helpful for the article.
I think the fact is that we have to remember that we do work with people and not machines, right? And people have emotions and feelings, and so I think it's important to get to know your coworkers and your employees as individuals, right? They're not just some computer that you input, commands, and then they give you an output, right?
Yeah.
They need motivation. They need that connection. Reminds me of a speech I heard about leadership, right? And the highest level of leadership is when someone connects with your ideals and connects with your values, and they want to follow you because of who you are, not because they have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely leadership as opposed to just being a boss, I think.
Right, definitely. So I definitely think that I would like to look more into these blogs and these books that we talked about yesterday. Now today we're going to kind of do a little bit of a shift. We are still talking about careers and work, but we're going to be talking about collaboration. And Brendan, you talked about collaboration yesterday, working with other people. You enjoy working with other people.
I do. I think you can make something better if you have more minds put to the task.
Right. But as I hinted earlier in this program, the way people are collaborating is kind of shifting. It's kind of changing because of modern technology and lifestyle, right? And things are changing. How are they changing? Well, let's get into our article and we can start discussing.
Work as a team, not together. Today's employees want to be able to work from home, but seclusion is not necessarily their aim. A recent Future of Work survey found. Does collaboration differ depending on age? It seems employees who are spread out still want to be teamed up, which raises questions. Has the understanding or nature of teamwork changed? Do employees picture teamwork and collaboration differently depending on age? It makes sense that people of a certain age might think that teamwork, by definition, involves FaceTime. But today's reliable, high-speed internet makes it possible to work together while separated by miles or even time zones. You might indeed expect a generational difference, says Bryce Johannes, Director of Customer Engagement for intranet software provider Xero Solutions. Younger generations use a fuller range of social media, but what older employees benefit from is greater confidence that comes from greater experience, he says.
So, the title of our article here is Work as a Team, Not Together. At first when I saw this, I didn't really understand what this meant. What did you guys think when you first saw this title?
It was a little strange, to be honest.
Right.
I agree. I was kind of confused because you would think that if you are working as a team, you are working together. But as I read, I sort of began to understand exactly what they meant by that.
That's right. So let's get into our article. Today's employees want to be able to work from home, but seclusion is not necessarily their aim, right? So how do you feel about working from home, Serena?
You know, it's been my dream to work from home.
Yeah.
Being the introvert that I am.
Right.
You know, I've always wanted to work at home, but I also do need people by my side as well once in a while.
Community.
Right. Because communication is, you know, key when working in a team.
Right.
But yeah.
Working from home would be nice.
It would.
Yeah. What about you, Brendan?
I actually have done some working from home. I used to be a freelance videographer for various people. And while working at home is nice because I have a lot of comforts, I also get distracted really easily. So I'm not sure if working at home would be great just for me personally.
Right.
Since I get distracted too easily.
Right. So, I mean, there are a lot of different reasons why someone might work from home or why someone might want to work from home. I'd like to work from home just so that I could spend more time with my family. I think, but again, as it says here, a lot of people want to work from home, but they're not trying to get seclusion, right? They're not trying to be separated from other people.
Right. Like for me, I would want to work from home because I think I would be able to concentrate better. Like I'm in a comfortable environment. I'm on my computer at my desk. I can work better.
Right. Yeah, some people want that because they want more peace, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But some people, because of the commute, right, they aren't able to travel 1 or 2 hours to work every day. They want to save that time, or they want more time with their families. So there's different reasons to work from home, but they still want to be teamed up with other people, right? The next section here, it says, it seems employees who are spread out still want to be teamed up. So what do we mean when we say that that people are spread out?
It means that they're simply in different locations, that they can't talk face to face. They have to use phones or emails or whatever in order to communicate. And usually if we're referring to spread out in this context, I believe we're talking about a wider area, not just over the course of maybe multiple floors on a building.
Right.
But I suppose you could use the phrase in that context too.
Right. So they're in different physical locations. But even though they're in different physical locations, they still want to work in teams. And I think both of you touched on that. The fact that being able to be in community and helping with others. And I think as we talked about a little bit yesterday with collaboration, you get different ideas and different people have different insights. And that helps to make a better product, as Brenda was saying yesterday. So everyone, even though they're in different locations, they want to still be teamed up. So this raises a question, and what question is that?
Has the understanding or nature of teamwork changed?
Right. So do employees picture teamwork and collaboration differently depending on age? I think, again, in the past, right, the idea is when there wasn't as much technology available, everybody came to the same office, right? And everybody worked together in the same physical space. So teamwork and collaboration meant a lot of meetings and a lot of sitting down face to face and discussing things and brainstorming. But as technology has advanced and as the work culture has shifted, the idea of teamwork is changing, right? And now we're all relatively young here, but I think by the nature of our work, a lot of us have done more of that physical face-to-face collaboration, right? And not so much of that distance collaboration.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about the difference here?
I think that, well, personally, I prefer face-to-face collaboration, but I believe that's simply because I'm an extrovert. I get energy from being around people. So that sort of face-to-face human contact that, if you're trying to talk through an email, you don't really get all of the communication, body language, tone of voice, things like that. But I also have been Skyping regularly with somebody back at home. We're meeting up every week, and we want to continue. And so we Skype every week at the same time. So just to keep that contact and just to keep that sort of accountability that we're holding each other to.
Right, yeah. And it says here, it makes sense that people of a certain age might think that teamwork by definition involves face time, which just means being in the same physical location. I can see you, you can see me, right? And that certain age, I believe, is referring to people my age and a little bit older, because for me, I remember a time when there was no Skype, there was no, the Apple FaceTime, there was no the webcam internet type thing, if the older people might remember the movie Back to the Future, right? And Back to the Future last year was a huge deal. Was it this year? I forget. Anyway, it was a huge deal because this is the year that, they went to when they went to the future, right?
Right.
And in that, and back then they showed people talking to each other on like what we know now as Skype, right? So video phone calls. And I remember seeing that in the movies and being like, whoa, that's so cool. Is that ever going to happen?
Possible.
Right? And now it is. Now it's actually a reality, right? Video phone calls, being able to see each other face to face and talk to each other on a phone call.
Yeah, and it's getting more and more popular, like in the workplace.
Yeah.
Imagine how it's going to be in 20 years.
Exactly. So there's been a shift, right? And so now, even if you're not in the physical location, you can still work together and still kind of have that face-to-face, right? And that collaboration. And it says here, today's reliable, high-speed internet makes it possible to work together while separated by miles or even time zones, right? And so we hear from this Director of Customer Engagement, Bryce Johannes. He says, you might indeed expect a generational difference, right? So again, what we were talking about with the older workers and the younger workers. And Bryce Johannes works for a company called Xero Solutions, and they are an intranet software provider. What is intranet, actually?
It's a private computer network within an organization.
Right. So I did a little bit of research here. So basically, it's kind of like what Xero they provide is kind of like your company's own social media network, right? So if you think about a Facebook for your own company, right? So it's not anybody can join this social platform. It's only for the workers in this company, and people can post things and they can comment and they can add their thoughts and they can share pictures and share ideas and they can invite their customers to come on and interact with them. So it becomes kind of a social platform, but for just your company rather than for the whole world. Okay, I think that helps people to understand a bit more. And so they're kind of providing this kind of platform where people can interact with each other and share ideas and comment and like, and you can follow what people are thinking and you can see how people are responding to your ideas, And so it allows for a different type of collaboration. Right. And so again, we're talking about this generational difference. Older people might not be used to this, right? Like, and when I looked at the Xero solutions and what they provide, I was like, oh, this looks exactly like Facebook, where you post something. And so people of the younger generation might be familiar with it. They don't need to be educated on how to use this. They're kind of already doing it every day. But people from the older generation might have a larger learning curve in this area, right? So this is why it says older employees might not be used to this, but older employees benefit because they have a greater confidence and they have greater experience, right? So they have more to offer in terms of knowledge, whereas younger generation might be able to catch on faster with this type of new technology.
Right.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested to see what this type of software, what these types of pages look like. Because having worked with multiple different video editing softwares, I can tell you that they all basically look the same. Because if they look too drastically different, no one will want to use them because they would have to learn an entirely new system.
Exactly.
So I wonder if they designed their, pages after Facebook or after another, website just so that younger generations can hop in and go, oh, hey, I already know how to do this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, they had the big thumbs up with the like and the different things. So it looked very similar. I'm sure there's slight differences. And, I mean, the main difference being that it's a private network. It's not open to the public. But, yeah, the design itself is it's familiar, and I think that's part of the point is that it's something that people already know how to use, right? So what is it that is driving this change? Why is there such a shift in the work culture? Let's continue our article on line 4 of the second column.
The changing workspace. Perhaps the bigger driver of the changing nature of teamwork is the modern physical office. To encourage collaboration and cut down on real estate costs, companies, by and large, have adopted open office floor plans, some with no assigned workspaces. Space and budget constraints, as well as worker expectations, mean more team members working on contract and remotely. Both traditional and virtual meetings are fading in favor of a shared virtual workspace where people can catch up and contribute their ideas when they have time to, Johannes says. This way, you don't have to schedule everyone together to discuss a project. Instead of meetings, you set up a virtual workspace for the project where everything about the project resides for quick discovery.
All right, so we see here the bigger driver of the changing nature of teamwork is the modern physical office. So we have some words here. What is a driver?
A driver is just something that directs and sort of pushes something.
Right.
So if you think about a driver, somebody's driving the car. It is the person who's both directing where the car is going and how fast, how slow the car is moving.
Right. Another word here might be motivation, right? The bigger motivation for why teamwork is changing is the modern physical office. And what does that mean? What exactly is the modern physical office? What does that look like?
It just means the actual building where the office is at.
Right. And so we see a description here of the modern physical office, right? So to encourage collaboration, and to encourage people to talk to one another and to work more with one another and to cut down on real estate costs, companies by and large just means that, for the most part, they have adopted open office floor plans. Now, what is an open office floor plan?
I would imagine that according to this, it's just a open space with a lot of work desks, but they say there are no assigned workspaces. So I'm guessing that means that you can just go to whatever space you want to on any given day.
Right. Yeah. So an open office floor plan is just kind of like you were saying, it's just an open. There's no offices, right? The traditional office. There's small rooms and people have offices, they have doors, they can close them, right? But in the modern office, it's just kind of open, right? And they're just desks. And some offices you have an assigned workspace, this is your desk, right? But some offices, they don't. And I kind of imagine like a library, right?
Right.
If in the college, university, when you go to the library, you study, there's just a bunch of desks and you just choose whatever's open. You don't have an assigned desk in the library, This in a way is encouraging people to work together and work with one another. But it's kind of also doing the opposite in that people are finding that, because there have been studies done that open workspaces, people are not as productive, right? Because the noise level and people are constantly being distracted and you hear people talking and then you're kind of talking to other people. And some people don't work as well in that kind of environment. So they opt to work from home. And that's kind of what you were saying, Serena, is that you like to work from home because it's not as distracting.
Exactly. And working at the office, like if I'm on my computer and someone just says even just something simple to me and I'm like in the middle of something important, that can be very distracting.
Yeah. So it's kind of a toss-up, right? Because as you were saying, Brendan, sometimes at home it's easy to get sidetracked as well.
I think it really depends on the individual at this point. If, like I said, I need to be in an environment where work is supposed to be done because for whatever reason in my head, that's just, I'll work better.
Right.
That's me. If I'm at home, I can relax. It's a safe space. Nobody's around. I can just, I can go and look up this one song, which leads to another song, which leads to another song, to leading me to building playlists of music rather than actually doing any work.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of like a lot of students, they like to go to cafes and study, right? But for me, I would find that kind of distracting. Everyone's studying in the cafe. There's a lot of noise,
Right.
but it works for them.
Right. Yeah, I think it depends on the personality. And I think
Right.
in your case, and what might work for you at home is to set up a workspace at home. This is my work place, and different things. Right. So this open floor plan works in some ways, but it doesn't work in other ways. And also other reasons is the space and budget constraints, right? There's just not a lot of room in some offices for all their workers. And so they allow for team members to work on contract and work remotely. So there's this shift of the teamwork and collaboration. So what do you do when everyone's working in a different zip code and a different time zone? How do you get people together? Well, it says here both traditional and virtual meetings are fading. And what are they fading in favor of?
In favor of shared virtual workspace where people can catch up and contribute their ideas when they have time to.
Right. So this is kind of what we were talking about. So rather than actually sitting in a room together and having paper or computer working together, you kind of have this thing online where everybody posts their ideas and they make changes together online in their time, right? So they're not scheduled to meet together at a specific time. And instead of meetings, they set up a virtual workspace for the project where everything about the project resides for quick discovery, which is good because sometimes when you're in a meeting and you're just talking, no one's taking notes. Sometimes ideas can slip through and people forget what was discussed and different ideas. So when you're actually doing everything online, there's a record and you can keep track of how the changes were made and who made the changes and different suggestions, and people can get credit and things like that. All right. So there's a shift happening, right? So the traditional meetings are fading, but are they not important anymore? Well, let's read and let's continue with the rest of our article.
Are face-to-face meetings disappearing altogether? To the contrary, teams should have face-to-face meetings, early and often, according to the Harvard Business Review. That's because scholarly research, as opposed to commissioned surveys, suggests that face-to-face interaction is especially important early in a team's formation, and that established teams that have regularly scheduled meetings outperform those who meet as needed, even if they have less in-person interaction overall.
So the question here is, we have these virtual spaces. People can go on there and collaborate, add their ideas whenever they need to and on their own time. So does that mean that we don't need to meet together anymore? What does this Harvard Business Review say?
It actually says that we should have face-to-face meetings early in the interactions and rather often. They also say that they go on to say that it's because the scholarly research that they have done suggests that face-to-face interaction is important to establish sort of a rapport with one another and to really help make the group, I guess, gel, for lack of a better phrase.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, when you look at a computer screen and you might see interactions, it creates this kind of false connection, right? But when you actually sit in a room physically with someone staring at their face, there's nothing that can replace that, right? And there's certain things you can do online, but you definitely, if you want to build that team rapport, that bond, you need to sit down together and have that face-to-face interaction. And you need to hear people's voices and their inflections and the different things that they have to say, right? And that helps you to succeed better. And teams that actually have regularly scheduled meetings tend to do better. They perform better. So just because we have these virtual workspaces, people can work together on the virtual workspaces does not take away the fact that you should still meet face-to-face and have discussions.
Right. A lot of times, like when you look at the computer, you don't really know how they're really trying to say it. Like
Right.
what they say is one thing, but when you talk to somebody in person, like communication is really all about how you say something.
Right.
Right. And what
Yes.
you're really trying to get from that person.
Exactly. Well, thanks for joining us today, friends, and for listening in, and thanks for meeting with us. We have one more day of our article, so please do join us again tomorrow for the last day of our career article. But for now, we'll say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.